to the Project Management Toolkit webinar, and thank you very much for joining us today. Running this session this morning will be Anne Morris. Anne holds a Master of Education and Diploma of Project Management and has over 35 years experience in working with government and corporate organisations in project management, training, delivery and supervisory roles. She's worked with local government across New South Wales and has a keen interest in the importance of public works for community wellbeing, and worked for TAFE New South Wales as a manager of trade and civil construction training for over 10 years. Anne is also a founding member of Lake Macquarie Women in Business and takes an active role in mentoring. Anne has worked closely with us on putting together and completing the Project Management Toolkit. So I would love to hand over to Anne. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you, Laura. And in addition to all that, I'm getting pretty close to retiring, I think, after all that time. But before we start today, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of all the different nations on whose land we meet today, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. But welcome everyone, and very good for Hawkesbury to make it, very bad again down there for you guys. So you've had your fair share of being battered and bruised. But thank you very much for joining this morning. There's 22 of you, so I'm sort of not going to go around and do all the introductions because it'll probably take the whole hour. But once again, welcome. You probably come from near and far. I'll share my screen with you. I can just choose that. Should be in business. There we go. All right. Okay. So today I just want to talk to you to introduce you to the Project Management Toolkit. It is not something you can carry around, but it certainly is very useful for those of you who are working in projects big and small. It came about as a result of some collaboration between Public Works Advisory, Regional New South Wales and IPWEA, primarily stemming from a, oh, why is it going? Primarily from a, that there would be too much variation and extensions to contracts. Public Works were tired, I suppose, of having to rejig projects, and they decided that there had to be some form of help available to people who needed it, particularly in smaller councils where they don't have a PMO, a project management office. Some places have a project management office, you know, and they're able to run all their projects through there. With the amount of money that was flowing into regions from floods and fires and anything else that you liked, it gave some assurance to grant programs, that grant programs would be run effectively and efficiently, and that the government would get good bang for its buck. Also capacity uplift, skill on the ground, enhancement on the ground, and it was proactive as opposed to reactive, rather than saying to people, you need to do your projects better, you need to set them up better. They tried to do something proactive. And from that came Project Management Toolkit. Now, some councils will adopt it in full, some councils will use part of it, and some councils will decide that they have a very good project management system and they don't need to use it. Now, that's how it was set up. And it's quite fine to use whatever parts of it that you might like. So it's there as a tool for people to access free of charge to take on board in their council for whatever reason that they would like. It may even use it to you know, upskill in your own council for those people who are not 100% sure of how to run a project. So technically, what is it? It's not a training program. It doesn't mean to say that you can't use it as one, but it's not designed as a training program. It's not applicable to all projects. If you've got a very large project that needs, or very complicated project that needs more advanced tools, you're probably going to have to call in a project management company if you don't have the ability to be able to do that. It's not one size fits all, but it has, you know, some usefulness for various people using you know, bits of it. But the project that you use it on could be quite large, but not complex. It'll come down to a bit of a risk rating in terms of how you actually manage that. And it's designed for a particular type of project, one that's not too complex, not too risk averse, and, you know, lots of little projects. And you can use it for any project. It's pretty stock standard stuff. So it's a guide to managing a project. That's what it is. It's not going to give you all of the project management skills. If somebody doesn't know anything about project management, it's probably better that they do a course, an introduction to project management, or IPWEA's course in managing a local government project, just to so that they understand how to use it. It's able to be customised. So you can take the shells of the templates and you can add your own logos, you can add more fields, you can add what's relevant to you. So it's a customisable product. And as I said, it's designed for those lower cost, less complex projects. Some of the tools will have universal application. Keeping a change register, for example, will, for any size project, that's usually fairly applicable at that particular point. And it can be cherry picked, and templates might be added to existing systems. You may have an existing system already, and you might decide that you can add bits and pieces to the project templates that you already have, or the project system that you already have. You can add some templates to that. So it's a bit of a bits and pieces. So some of the things are just basic templates. Some of them are filled in as samples, so that if people don't know what to put in the boxes, some of them are filled in. So you have got some exemplars. Others are completely empty, so that you can add your own. Some of them fill and calculate, so that if they're adding, for instance, in this risk one, they add their own risks and they add percentages, it'll calculate for them. And then there's checklists. There's checklists for each stage of the project. And even if you use nothing more, you can start with the checklists so that you know you cover each aspect of what's in that stage of a project. So I have got a little video to run. It doesn't seem to be showing up on my system. I don't know why. I was very well organised, but I don't know what it is now. But I'll have a look at it, see if I can find it for you. Laura, can you log into the video on our website and play it? Doesn't seem to want to come up for me.
Yeah, let me just have a look.
See if you can find it for me. I'll just play you the basic video, but I'll just give you some examples of how the kit's been used. One council is actually using it with their subcontractors, where their subcontractors are not doing some of the project management aspects very well, and they're using the kit with them and providing them with some of the templates so that they can fill things in and hand it back to council. We're also using it with people who may not be very skilled in managing projects that have now got them to do, because there's just so much, as well as all the ordinary projects. If you happen to be in one of the flood related areas, you've got dozens of projects on top of everything else. So some organisations don't have a project management framework and are implementing one. And they have cherry picked a bit from the guide to save writing their own, or they're using the guide and they're using it to populate their own systems. So such as Pulse, some of you may use, or other software systems. they're actually taking the tools and putting them into those sort of systems so that they have some sort of coverage. Have we got it, Laura?
Yep, I can just share my screen.
So I'll just get Laura to run this video, and then I'll have a look at some of the actual tools themselves, so that you can see how they might be used.
Can you hear that okay?
No.
There's no sound.
Yeah, I don't think you need to optimize the sound button when sharing.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on, I'll try again. Advanced sharing options. Oh,
I had it running
there we
perfectly
go.
this morning, but the best laid schemes.
Go.
View of the Project Management Toolkit. This short video will walk you through the main parts of the kit and provide guidance on how to use the kit to manage a small to medium local government project. The toolkit is divided into 4 phases based around 4 stages in the project management lifecycle: initiation, planning, delivery and monitoring, and project close. In the guide to the Project Management Toolkit, there is a brief explanation of why each phase is important, and at the end of the section is an action icon outlining what you should do at this stage of your project with a list of tools that will assist you. There are 5 folders of templates, one for each phase of the project and one of checklists. There is also an A3 wall poster summary. This toolkit has been developed to be used by non-professional project managers, but it does not preclude its use by skilled and highly experienced project managers. The resource has been developed for councils where project management skills and knowledge are lacking or resources are under pressure. The guide and the templates can be used to complement existing project management systems or provide consistent, quality-assured approaches where systems do not currently exist or are poor. You do not have to use all the templates in the kit to manage a project. Just select the ones you're most comfortable with and will be of most use to you. All the templates can be customised by adding additional fields, your council's name and logo, and document numbering. You can also take parts of the templates and add them to documents you already use. You may only want to use a specific set of templates, such as risk management, or just a scoping document and a project plan. The best place to start using the kit is with the A3 summary table, as it gives a brief description of each project phase and a list of templates that can be used in that phase. The checklists will guide you as to the main things you should be addressing in each project phase. Read the guide to inform yourself as to what you need to be mindful of in each stage of the project, and follow the action icons, as they will point you to the templates that can be used at each project phase. If your project is complex and high risk, the tools in the kit may not be advanced enough to manage a project of this nature, and a more sophisticated project management system may be required. But for most projects in council that involve minor infrastructure improvements, the toolkit provides a sound management framework. Such examples include parkland improvements, playground developments, road improvements, pavement constructions, bridge repair, and town centre beautification. The kit is not limited to infrastructure projects and can be used for social projects such as the development of a community learning hub. The Project Management Toolkit can provide valuable resources to manage contractors working on council projects to ensure they have clear documentation and projects can be quality assured. We hope the Project Management Toolkit assists you in managing your projects, and IPWEA would appreciate any feedback you can give us, so new resources can be added and existing ones updated. The Project Management Toolkit was developed by IPWEA in partnership with Regional New South Wales and Public Works Advisory to deliver quality project outcomes for people living and working in New South Wales.
Thank you, Laura. Good job. Right, so that's the basic look of the thing. What I'm going to do now is run through a few of the templates. Do we have any questions at this point?
This looks very similar to the PMBOK project management body of knowledge kind of schedules and templates and principles.
It's based on PMBOK. That was part of the original brief, part of the scope, that it would be based on PMBOK. On the body of knowledge and works, because they figured that that would be most usable. So it's based on that it's not looking at agile project management, doesn't have any of that in it. But at the moment, the project kit's gone another stage. It's being digitised. It's being put into a different format so it can be used through a portal. And that the forms will be self-populating. We did discuss that, but in the early days of this, but it was quite clear from Public Works Authority that they wanted it more paper-based, and it wasn't digitised or linked. But that is coming in the future, and I think there's an opportunity there to add some more around the different styles of project management that we're using now, George. Right. A lot of people are using more agile systems, but yeah, it's based around pretty stock standard, the 4 runs and the PMBOK system of knowledge. That's what it's based on. So it is quite basic, but for people who don't know a lot about project management or who've just been doing their projects on, you know, an Excel spreadsheet in the drawer, it's giving some standardization, and it also allows more consistent reporting. And one of the things we've had come back is that the consistent reporting is what councils need or others need to be able to inform them of where things are happening. And they've been using a lot of the tools in scoping and planning because they seem to deliver quite well, but it's the scoping and planning that seems to be more of the issues.
Right, and obviously the project review stage at the end.
At the end.
Any issues with the actual running of the project.
Yeah, we don't often do project close very well. We just sort of stuff that one in the cupboard and we move off onto the new one. Yep. We don't record lessons learned from one project to the next. But yes, so it is based pretty much on PMBOK, pretty much 4 standard stages. Yes.
Thanks.
Other questions? No, yeah. Quiet little blocks. Very good. All right. Okay. So let me see now. Just this one. Stop sharing on this screen, and then I can get you onto another screen. Yeah.
And you mentioned you've integrated it with Pulse, is that right?
Yes, we have. It's working with Pulse. Who is that?
Lachlan.
Yeah, Lachlan. Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing some work with Hawkesbury. We've got a project on out there. Some of the fields, the fields that are in the templates have been taken into Pulse. So, and looking at it from the perspective of building pretty much those 4 stages into Pulse, but at each stage or at various points, they're actually gating it so that you put so much information in the Pulse, and then it has to go to one of your approving people who approves it, what they put in it, and then it comes back. But Pulse will contain all of the information about a project and be able to consistently report. And the guide to project management, the actual booklet, I think will become part of the training or self-learning for people within the council. So it'll be quite easy to use from that perspective. So it's it's not actually integrating it as such, but the project fields they're using will be a lot much easier to look at and put them into they had to start with a framework somewhere. So that's the framework that they chose to use. But I'm going to share my screen again. Just where we are. My technology is not running at all well today. Doesn't want to cooperate at all.
Sorry, and is that integration include financial management and also asset management components of that?
Yes, yes. The one at Hawkesbury, where we are trialling it in Pulse, actually has the budget in there, and it actually has the asset in there.
Right.
So I'm not sure to what depth that they have put it in, but they can then report budget against actual.
No.
And if I can just jump in there, it's Richard Jane here.
Hello, Richard. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. The next move into the digitising of it, there won't be any live connection to the financial information or asset information. So, yeah, that's a very recent decision, only a couple of days old, about where we're going to with this. It adds a very large amount of complexity to the whole thing with the digitising of it. So it'll be manual if people decide to go down that path themselves.
That's in the digital version, Richard.
Correct, yeah.
But if you build your own into your own system, like into Pulse, you can probably connect it up to whatever you like.
If you've got the skills to do that, I certainly don't. But
that's right. If you've got the skills to do that, I certainly don't.
Yeah.
But they have people who can do that.
Yeah, good on them. Yeah, big thumbs up.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Who has people that does that, Anne, did you say? Who's doing that?
Hawkesbury are doing it.
Oh, so I'm from Hawkesbury.
Yeah.
And has there been another council that's integrated this into Pulse? Are we reinventing the wheel or not?
No, you're not.
So there is another council that's done it?
No, you're in at the moment.
There's not.
No, there's not.
So we are not reinventing, we're actually breaking ground.
You are.
So that
Good on you.
What Richard's saying is it's not going to be easy.
Look, I think Richard's talking about the digitisation of the kit itself in a completely different format, using a portal put together by, I think it's Deloitte's or somebody who's actually looking after it. But in terms of what Hawkesbury are doing, you're actually building your own in Pulse. So you're ahead of the game. Richard's talking about a product that's yet to come, and I don't know how long the build is to be, but Hawkesbury is certainly well on impulse, and it's moving along quite significantly. So it's happening in Hawkesbury, and it's I'd say they've probably got pretty much the bulk of it done. I did get an email the other day to tell me where it was all up to, but I sort of couldn't interpret that because I'm not internally in council, but they're well underway with putting fields into Pulse. And the aim is that it will become a framework used right across the council, that, you know, so that they're not in the throes of having all sorts of different things and different means and different bits of paper and things flying all over the place.
I don't mean to be cynical, Anne, but I've been through the process of integrating that with financial packages like Tech One and other sort of systems through different councils, and it doesn't seem that the project management side of the administration side of that integrates with those packages very well, and there seems to be a lot of issues with those. So I'm just hoping that that's been sort of cleared up a new path for us, because I think it might create some problems down the track.
Look, I think it's always a problem with integration, George, and I agree that once you start trying to link one thing to another thing to another thing, it all seems to go a bit scrambly in the process.
Yeah.
But all they're doing at Hawkesbury is getting the fundamentals of those project management things into place. I don't think they're trying to get it to do too much. They're just trying to get it to do enough that people can manage a project, manage the budget, manage the risk, and report. It's the reporting, I think, that they're really interested in from the early briefs, so that they can extract meaningful, consistent reports. And there's a level of transparency around what's happening with the money, and where it's going and how projects are progressing. I don't think they're trying to do anything too sophisticated. But as Richard points out, once you start to try to do a lot of sophisticated things and with any sort of IT package and try to build bridges and all sorts of things to other packages, it becomes really messy.
Yeah, it's nearly impossible to get a one-size-fits-all with that integration. So
it is.
And let's face it, there's a lot of project managers out there that are still learning to walk before we can run. So we want to ease people into it, not overcomplicate it and have people tearing their hair out because they can't get it to integrate with authority or Tech One or one of those things. So we, as Anne very well pointed out, this is pretty much about the recording and the project management without having live links to financial or asset management data, because that just creates a level of complexity that's way beyond most people that are going to use this tool.
Yes, Fran.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Anne. I just wanted to add some additional information to the conversation. We are talking to Technology One as well. So 30 councils in New South Wales use Technology One in some form. A lot of rural and regional councils don't, but we do liaise with them. We also liaise with the other state departments about what type of technology they're using, the different portals. For example, we're liaising with the planning portal at the moment with DPE to talk about anything that we sort of develop at the coalface for local government is not a duplication of what's already there. Also to make sure that the tools that we do are more simple and less complicated, and they're starters rather than the big integration like Richard was saying. The interesting thing though is Minister Victor Dominello really is aiming for one data set overall, which will take a very long time to do, I think, but also to trying to simplify the different types of technology that everyone's using. So it is quite complex, but to just go back to the PM toolkit won't be a big tool that's integrated, and it won't be duplicating. I know, for example, Sutherlandshire Council, they're working with Technology One on a very big project management framework. That's not what the PM toolkit here is about. I think it would be a really great starter for local government council on induction and onboarding in the smaller to medium-sized projects, and that's what it's been built for. So it has a definite space, a definite, assistance in projects that are going on, but it's definitely not at that high end in the integration, say with, HR and finance. It was never built for that. Thanks, Anne.
Thanks, Fran. And, and as Richard said, there's a lot of people that, I've got to walk before they can run in terms of project management. And, it's for those type of people that haven't run projects before, because council, like everyone else, is suffering from lack of staff, too much to do. Our weather events and the like have not assisted us in terms of doing the normal projects. There's all sorts of extra ones. People that have not conducted projects before are being asked to do them. People who have run projects before are being asked to do more. And where there's no consistent set of tools to use, people reinventing the gaps. So it's good to be able to just have something that you can give them and that it works, You know that it's based on pretty sound fundamental principles, the old P and BOK type measures. It's based on pretty sound principles that have been used for a long time. They're not going to get into too much trouble with it. It's self-guided so that they can pretty much work autonomously with the kit. But as Fran points out too, it's good for onboarding anybody who's not proficient in project management. And of course, those that know nothing about it probably need to do some form of training. But, you know, if you're managing big projects, I think more and more people are going to commercial software to manage their projects, and they're working with big commercial software.
And if I can just jump in again just for a moment.
That's if you can afford the commercial software.
Yeah, just a bit of real feedback, because we've been implementing the toolkit here at Forbesshire Council, and the feedback that I've got so far from the people that have started using it is, even with the little modifications that we have made, it's already getting too complex. And the feedback I'm getting from the people who should be using it is, if it's too complex, they won't use it. So it's got to be that sort of middle ground between being sufficient to cover everything that we need, but not go over the top. Otherwise, yeah, particularly people who get into a bit of a head spin once they get into more complex issues. Yeah, we can't have it too difficult. Otherwise, it just won't get used. It'll get left on the shelf.
Yeah, and that's where I think it was always the thought that it would be accompanied by training. That if people really need to use it and don't understand it, they probably need training in project management fundamentals, or particular parts of project management, like procurement or like risk or whatever it is, that there would be some form of training program that went with it. But that didn't happen as part of the project. Well, that wasn't a paid for component of the project, so it's got to be this far. But if there's no more questions, I'll just quickly run through this. I'm hoping that it's working. We can see it now. So the kit just runs through, as I said, each of the initiation sections, whatever. So if you need a guide or anything for project management in your council, this is a good place to start. You don't have to rewrite one. Have you used this, Richard, out there?
Sorry, I'll unmute myself. It's still very much in the building stage of the project management framework, but yes, there are components of it, like the change request forms and stuff we've already implemented. So,
yeah, okay,
yep.
Thanks. So overall, it goes through the whole thing, but what I'll do is just take one section. So you've got who should use the guide, how was it developed. There's also the A3 summary sheet that you can use. At each stage, it has an action icon, this little one here. When you see that action item, it means that there are tools that go with that text. So as you're going through, you'll see that item, and then you can go to a template to actually get that item and use it at that particular point as you work through the guide. As I said, this is very basic, and as Fran pointed out, it is for projects that are small and for people that don't have anything else to get some consistency. I think the biggest problem for PWA that developed this, that wanted this kit, was that they get a lot of change requests, that they have to spend all of their time looking at change requests for projects where they've allocated money, and that reporting was particularly poor. Now, they are accountable for government money, as are the councils that receive that money. So they definitely want the accountability piece popped in behind this. This is about accountability if we run it right back to its basic roots from PWA. They want good accountability for their money, bang for their buck, if you like. So they want to know that they gave you the money to do a particular project, it was done well, and it received its outcomes, and it was within the budget that you asked for first time, or within the time frames that you asked for. first time. Now, one can't predict the sort of weather events and other events that impede on anything. You just can't. When we're not magic in that perspective. But it's just basic overruns they were seeing were done poor. You know, that could have been ameliorated had they been a bit more planning done around the project from the very beginning, and the ability to get the reports done on time. So when you look at it from that way, just using a template, if everyone's using the same template, they're at least getting to some degree of consistency across running the project. And then as for subcontractors, well, they're in a totally different game, because you don't know what level of project management skills that they have got. And more subcontractors are being employed to undertake projects because council doesn't have the staff. But when you move down a little bit further, it talks about, you know, what is a project, what's the project lifestyle, as again, once I said, pretty much PM box, standard stuff. It's, you know, what you do in each one, what's scoping, so on and so forth. People can teach themselves if they're a little bit smart. But I only want to get down to initiation talks about just critical success factors of what you should have. Might start back with a business case. Applying for funding can be a project in itself. A lot of the tools have been used. One council I was in, they're using the scoping documents for actually establishing their projects. So they're using them as part of the pre-work for putting in a submission or a tender. They're using them in that particular instance, so that they make sure that when they submit their tender documents, when they submit their costing, they've actually got it right at that point. Because if you don't get it right at that point, you're in trouble straight away. So they've been actually using the scoping documents to scope out projects that are to be or that may need funding in the future. So they're using them a bit like a business case. Now, the kit didn't go into business cases because that's a completely different ilk. And often the project will have been given to somebody once it's been won or once it's been fleshed out, once the business case has been done. It's often then passed on to somebody else to manage. So there's nothing in there about building the business case, but there should be one. And the recommendation is you go and find it. If you're managing the project, go and find where this project came from. You know, there's a bit on business cases at the front. I apologise for zooming along. So you get here, you know, I've been given the project, it's been put onto me, and here I go. I've got the project. What do I do now? So use the project initiation checklist and the initiation tools to ensure you have a clear picture of the project, what it aims to achieve before you move on to phase 2 planning. Much of what you complete in this stage can be included in the final plan. So you should complete a business case if there isn't one, access the contract or tender documentation, project scope, workdown structure, and initial cost estimates. And there is a folder of templates in the initiation folder, and you can go and find all those documents. So you can go and find a template to make a project scope, to build a workdown, breakdown structure, and undertake initial cost estimates. You'll find all those documents in there. So if you haven't got a template, you can go and find one. So as Fran said, it's pretty much basic. It's not going to give you the primary big look picture of a project management system. I think if you're looking for that, sometimes it's better just to have that built. But in small regional councils, they often can't afford that big build. And they have to have something that will be able to put into effect that they can manage projects, or that they can manage very simple small projects a lot of the more social projects have been run using this. We think about projects as always being infrastructure projects, but there's an awful lot of projects that are based around social things, such as Indigenous projects, projects to build community hubs, learning centres, around childcare. All of the things that council do in the social space also need to actually have project plans. So it's trying to be a bit of a one-size-fits-all for basic projects so that everyone can work on the same plane. And that's why Lachlan in Hawkesbury with Pulse, they're essentially just putting in each of the 4 project stages. So you'll go in and you'll do all your initial stuff and you'll get that approved. Then you'll go to a project plan and a budget and so on, and all that will be approved, and then you'll have to report against it. So it's going to be basic, but it's going to be usable, and it's going to be able to produce consistent data across the council. So I think it's a start to see how they're actually going. And they were building a guide. I'm not sure how far that's gone because the person who was looking after that had left. So they were taking this guide and adding the little bits that were relevant to Hawkesbury Council that they wanted to add to it. So they weren't rewriting a whole new guide. So it was going to save issues in that particular place. And then it gives you detailed information on each of the sections in the initiation stage of what you're doing for. So if for information sessions within council, for self-learning, the guide can be used for all those sorts of things. It's written for each section of a project. Hopefully it's not too complicated. It's in language that people can understand. And it's able to be used quite quickly and readily. And as Richard pointed out, you might only use one thing. You've chosen one particular set of templates and you're using those because you've obviously found that somewhere in the council you don't have one. So therefore you've adopted something that looks like that. So are there any questions or comments at this point?
Just a general question. And have you implemented these principles with any particular projects you've delivered, or is this based on other councils' experiences?
No, this is based a lot on projects that I have delivered.
Right. Any examples of that, sort of to give us a scope of how these could integrate into what we do?
Where are you from, George?
I'm from Hawkesbury Council.
Oh, you're from Hawkesbury too?
Yeah.
Okay. You didn't have a Jazzy logo behind you.
I'm working from home.
Oh, you're working from home. You can't get in. You got to swim in.
Probably, yeah. My boat's not working today, so
your boat's not, they're not going in. Look, I base this kit on my own knowledge of what worked and didn't work in councils. So one of them, you saw some pictures earlier of streetscaping. No. We use this particular thing for some well, not the kit, but a lot of the processes in the kit and a lot of templates in the kit. We use those for it was a fairly low cost project in terms of beautifying the streetscape. So it was, there was some drainage works, concrete works, removal of services that had to be put into somewhere else. And the biggest part of that project was removal of trees. So it was a project that took quite a while to do, but it wasn't really very complicated. It was pull out the trees, level it off, fix the drainage, etc., etc. So we used it for that one. We used most of the templates in that sort of thing. The ones that we found particularly useful were the change register, because we weren't using a change register, which proved really useful when we could understand when some people left the project, we actually had their changes listed, so that worked quite well. I also used it on an event. We have, I'm from Lake Macquarie Council, Lake Macquarie LGA. So I was looking after events for that council for a while, so we used most of those tools on an event, and I used them with a event company. We gave the work to an event organiser because we didn't have one in council, and that event person organised the event, but I gave her the tools and I said, I want you to use these. Because then I could then report back with having consistent tools. So I said, I want your scope done on these. I want your project plans done on these. So, and part of that was then I could hold her to account on the dates that she'd put in. I could then also report to council using those consistent type of templating. So, but she was she'd never done any work in project management, but she was good organised, great organisational skills. So she didn't have a lot of trouble in filling them in. She understood quite quickly what they were about. But none of these projects are like building a major roadway. There was a picture there of a sensory park. That was another one that we used it for. It was a sensory park for children. And we used the same type of process, the same set of templates for that particular project, and we used those with a subcontractor. So that's roughly how they've been used. But, you know, you will have big projects in Hawkesbury. You'll have even bigger ones now, I imagine. Well,
we've got a diverse range, you know, ranging
huge.
from civil works, parks, building, RFS building, administration buildings, bridges. So we've got a very diverse range of projects that we're going to be handling. And as you said in the beginning, this probably won't fit all the boxes, but it would certainly be a guide to maybe instigate some of the project planning principles that we may not be using or fully utilising at this point in time. So,
and I think maybe for I did meet one of your chaps in your council who virtually so I've been out there. He you know, he sort of works on his own, looking after all the air conditioning and other sorts of things. And you know, for someone who's like that, you know, having templates and things to work on is probably, you know, a reasonably good idea, because there will be people in council doing projects all the time that are, you know, not real experienced in the actual science of project management. They can do it. They do it by default, and they get the job done and they get the project done, but they don't know that they're scoping, and they don't know that they're planning, and they don't know because they've never done project management training, and even the terminology of project management is not clear to them. And I think if nothing more, a framework across an organisation gives a common terminology in what people are talking about. So when I say scope, this is what I mean. And this is the sort of document that goes with it. And when I say you need to go and do a project plan, what's in my mind and what's in your mind might be two completely different things. But if there's a governing template or a governing set of principles around that, everybody talks the same language on the same page. Because one thing I have found working in local government all over the place, and government itself, if you don't speak the language that everybody else uses, you don't understand and you don't deliver. So if the kit does nothing more, it gives people a common language to be able to speak to each other about projects. And I think that's one of its powerful points, is having that common language that people can use. So when I asked you to go and close out a project, you know exactly what I mean, and exactly what documents to produce and what templates you need to fill in to be able to do that. Not everyone's good with language. They don't write complex reports. So if you've got some sort of system that will allow reporting that's simple, and I'm hoping that the Pulse system out there will be able to report, and that will be its advantage.
Thank you, Anne.
Yep. So that's sufficient example. Yeah, good. Okay. So we're getting towards the end of our time. You've got to forgive me for feeling snuffly. I'm still in the fuzzy stage at the end of COVID. So I've had COVID. So I'm sort of in the snubbling on bit. So I hope I've managed to be able to give you some idea of the kit. And how you, but please go onto the IPWEA website, have a look at the templates. They're all there, free of charge for you to download, to manipulate in any way that you like, to not use at all if you don't like them, that's fine, or even use them to amend, because it's sometimes easier to start with words on a page than a blank piece of paper. So at least you can amend and manipulate what happens to be there. But I know things are changing in Hawkesbury, and you know, I wish you all the best with that. You know, that, you know, you should be able to use some aspect of it or no aspect of it if how you choose. So does anyone else have any more questions today or comments? No? Well, I would invite you, as I said, to go to the IPWEA website. If you've got people who don't know anything about project management, maybe get them some training before they actually try to get onto the toolkit. And I wish you all well, stay safe and dry if you can. It's hideous here. All right, I wish you have a good day.
Thank you, Anne.
Thanks very much, everyone. Thank you very much, Anne.
Okay, bye.
Bye.